One Little, Two Little, Three Little Indians. This film that we're about to see is one that conveys a simplistic and distasteful representation of American Indians in film. More commonly known as stereotypes, these biases and generalizations have found a home in the film industry, especially for American Indians. Here goes the film.
One little, two little, three little Indians. Four little, five little, six little Indians. Sorry, that one was a half-breed. Seven little, eight little, nine little Indians. 10 little Indian boys.
And just taking a look at this film here, you see the simplistic representation, the stereotypical feathers, bow and arrow Indians, which aren't necessarily going to be across the board. A lot of the Indians have varying tools for hunting, tools for warfare, and it's not going to be the same across the board. And that's just one simple thing we see here with the depiction of Native Americans in this film, with a common character known by many as Bugs Bunny, and showing him killing Indians, tallying them up, even going as far as to say one was a half-breed, which is another underlying issue that we see within Indian communities in Indian country. So we go ahead and look, and we have to ask ourselves, this Native American misrepresentation in film, where does it come from, or why is it there? And then we go here, we got to see right here, it shows limiting beliefs being unequal, to facts. So the stereotyping often leads the majority of public and people to view Indians as people of the past rather than people alive today, going back to that limited belief and not equating to facts. So without regard to these facts, films portray Native peoples as primitive and incompatible, ultimately succumbing to modern society. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. Just take a look at Bugs Bunny mindlessly killing Indians. No one thinks of this as wrong or contemptuous, and that is likely because Indians are seen as extinct and would be similarly seen as killing a dinosaur or woolly mammoth to some people's limited extent of knowledge. It's important to realize that this didn't come out of nowhere, and it was created. The liberal Western movie shows the Reavers as savages, synonymous to the Indians. However, in these liberal Westerns, they deconstruct in a way in this following quote regarding, you can say, a colonizer, kind of explaining the savage ways of the Reavers that are synonymous with Indians. And here it says, about 1/10 of the percent of the population had an opposite reaction to the Packs. Their aggressive response increased beyond madness. They have become, they killed most of us. And then you see a side comment saying, Reavers, they made them. Again, synonymous with the Indians. This shows how the savage and violent depictions of Indians is not necessarily just an automatic characteristic, but that colonization triggered this reaction, just like the Packs in the film. In the picture here, we see a TV screen, megaphone to young children. So it's important to know how these stereotypes and depictions of American Indians exist in the form of children's entertainment. Disney films like Peter Pan and Pocahontas show an age-old view of Indians as spiritually oriented people who hold ancient wisdom and live in tune with nature. Although it sounds like a good thing to say and to portray, this could have unintended consequences. Showing Indians as people who live within nature leads a young mind to believe they are wild animals of the past. And wild animals are also hunted and shot down, like we see again in the Bugs Bunny film, ultimately rendering it okay to shoot and kill an Indian as you would a trophy deer or legendary moose. And this belief here is iterated in the old Western film Broken Arrow in the opening scene. It says, not a rabbit, not a deer, his kind was more dangerous than a snake. Again, forming the analogy, American Indians, wild, dangerous animals. In old westerns like this, I'd say, are sort of a ground zero or the epicenter of what misportrayal and stereotypical depiction began, where they began for American Indians in film. These seemingly small segments of the film are actually not as small as they seem. This is the same for any type of media that reaches hundreds and thousands of people in all kinds of audiences. Despite the far-reaching and lasting effects this stereotyping has brought, it does not have to be everlasting. Understanding and acknowledging is where we start. Decolonizing has made great strides in recent days. In understanding, colonization is a start. Here in the picture, we see that there is a structure that is vastly similar to that of colonization. We see how it starts with one person turns to 6 people, 6 people turns to 9 people, and not just that simple act of reproduction and exponential growth, but also the structure of putting these things in film. So understanding and acknowledging this, we see in this film here, colonization continues to be a structure. And Nikki Sanchez highlights that colonization is for everyone. She says, where we go together, we need to know where we are. And for us to know where we are, we need to know where we've been. And it is Prager 2012 mentions that this understanding and acknowledgement is also where it starts, but in the terms of representation. His quote supplements here. It is clear that unless Native peoples themselves continue to gain an effective presence in mass media, the impacts of the American story and its stereotypes will not be dealt with meaningfully. As we see here, as long as we stay in this state of hypnosis when it comes to misportrayal, misrepresentations, and stereotypes in films, it's going to be an endless cycle to the spiral. And we see here also another stereotype, one foundational to the American mythology. Whereas global social theory defines settler colonial invasion as a structure, not an event. Again, going back to the previous photo with the structure of people in an exponential pyramid. But to offer a better insight into that, global social theory defines settler colonial invasion as a structure, not an event, persisting in the ongoing elimination of indigenous populations and the pacification of state sovereignty and judicial control over their lands. Escaping this invasiveness of settler colonialism through allowing for American Indian embrace rather than diminishing and damaging the image of them into simplicity will help in the mission of decolonization. It is without doubt that these films have an exclusive focus on Native people, as most audiences today are in fact white or other demographics, but keeping in line with modernity is not going to hurt any film crew. Having accurate depictions might actually help both the production's reputation, but also their appeal with audiences who see through biases and generalization. This quote reinforces the idea that it is not new to point that mass culture images of American Indians are images created by and for white culture, by S. Elizabeth Bird in 1999. And just looking at this cowboy and Indian image here, we see that this is foundational to the American identity, the American mythology rather, and how it's created for the appeal to white culture. You know, the very foundational mythology of America with patriots, cowboys, Indians, liberty, and guns is almost an ironic stereotype of stereotypes. The generalized idea of American cowboys is highlighted by Wheelock in the quote here. America loves its cowboy image. This fascination with cowboys is obvious in the video of Bugs Bunnies and the 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians. We see the basic cowboy versus Indians, guns versus arrows, Indians dying, cowboy succeeding, cowboy in triumph. And when we look at these, it's not hard to tell that this is an oversimplification, overgeneralization, and a reinforcement of a days-old mythology that has no place in modern times. I want to thank you for listening to my digital story on the Bugs Bunny film and how these readings and these quotes tie into the greater landscape of Native American misrepresentation film, the American mythology, and how decolonization is something that is still possible. Thank you.